Hello and welcome back to my channel. For this card, I decided to turn this outside-in stitched strawberry into a house. So to ink up my pieces, I have Candied Apple, Festive Berry, Fossilized Amber, Lucky Clover, and Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide inks. Now, you see the little strawberries here. I had die cut these originally because I thought I would use more strawberries. But that was before I really knew what I was doing with this card. And my ideas usually change a lot, but because I have several of the new release products, I have so many ideas. So one idea would turn into another idea, which would turn into another idea, which would then morph into something else. And I would either need different things or not need things that I had thought I would need. So ignore those. You'll see the extra tops, see the extra leaves. I didn't use those. The one thing that didn't get die cut, because it's not part of it, is just a back piece for the large strawberry. So I just kind of loosely traced around the strawberry and then made sure that my cuts were inside the lines that I had made so that it would fit behind the big piece. Now for my door and windows, I used the door and windows from my pumpkin house die set. But here on the bottom of this door, there's little pieces that stick out. I did cut those off to help them fit the strawberry a little better, but you'll see I do end up cutting it a little bit more later. Now here I've stamped out several little girls, a dog, and a cat from the Tiny Friends stamp set. Now if you haven't guessed already, or haven't paid much attention to the title, or you never watched Strawberry Shortcake, that is what I'm mimicking here. I did not realize when I started this how many different style changes these characters have had. Like, I was born in the late 80s. I was very much a 90s kid, and I seen Strawberry Shortcake in the 90s, so it's a lot different. I wasn't quite expecting what I found. But anyway, I was super happy that there was a dog and a cat in the set to add the little kitty from the show and the dog. I don't actually remember if both of these were in the original cartoon, but I remembered there being a pet in there, or at least I thought there was a pet in there. I think Strawberry Shortcake is probably what started my love of food things that weren't food. So, I know that seems silly, but I do. I like when things look like food and they're not really food. Anyway, so for the little girl that I had started to color her shoes pink, that was not the one I meant to be Strawberry Shortcake. So I had to stamp her again. And here, these little images are so tiny that it was really difficult to get the amount of detail that I wanted to in each image without overwhelming it. So it vaguely looks like the character it's supposed to, and that is one of the newer versions. And I used my little fine liner to add some of the black lines back in there. Like I gave Strawberry Shortcake some sleeves instead of her having no sleeves. And I'm just going through and I am mostly trying to stick to the pictures that I found online. And I did end up having to use my white gel pen to bring back some of the white that was lost in some of my images, just because it's such a tiny area and I'm trying to put so much in it. Sometimes the marker bleeds a little more than you'd like. So far I've got custard, pupcake, Strawberry Shortcake. I started to color Orange Blossom, and now I've got lemon meringue. And I know there's not as much green in her outfit as probably should be, or at least I think she had bows in her hair or something, the picture that I had seen. But you get the idea. And then I have, what's her name? Blueberry Muffin. And then for the life of me, I cannot remember the cherry one's name. It's Cherry something. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm just adding my little details, coloring my little images in as best as I can to look like the character it's supposed to. This would have been really fun to do with the larger Lawn Fawn people, but I would not have been able to add as many, and I didn't really love the scale of the regular size people versus the house. So at least this way, they do look like they could all fit in the house, and it's not really unreasonable. Now here, sorry, I am kind of going off camera, and that is because I had it zoomed in so much and I was working on such a tiny space I was struggling to keep it where I needed to. Something worth mentioning, if you see me use a color and I did not show you the color number and name, it's just because I've already used it somewhere else in the card. So one of the things that I thought would help Strawberry Shortcake look more like Strawberry Shortcake is to give her a hat. And as you can see, I've already attempted the shape a couple of times. So I just hand drew the whole thing. I kind of roughly measured the head a little bit to make sure that it wasn't too large or too small for her head. And then I just colored it using the same colors I had already used for her. If I thought I could have managed it well enough, I probably would have added some like lemon slices to the little lemon girl and maybe some cherries to the cherry one. But at this point, it was already getting late. Like, I did not go to bed until 1:30 in the morning, and I still hadn't finished my card. So I figured that I should just call it a night, work on it the next day a little bit, and I never did manage to do any other like hand-drawn details for the other girls. For my background, I'm just using tumbled glass distress oxide and my cloud stencil, and I'm just going to work from the bottom and work my way up. Now, I wasn't 100% sure where I was going to start my grass at, but because I knew I was going to die cut a grass panel, I wasn't too worried about, starting at a very specific point and getting too low or whatever, because I could just cover it up if it doesn't look right. Once that was done, I decided I would tape my card base down first because it was popping up a little bit more than I care for, and it just makes it easier to work with when it's flatter. And now I'm attaching my strawberry pieces together, and here is where I put my door down, and I already knew I was going to probably have to cut off a little bit of the corners because the strawberry obviously does not have a squared bottom. So I did that, and I knew I was going to cover it with the steps, so I wasn't too worried about it looking weird. Here I have some vellum. I'm just cutting it out to put on the windows to give it more of a frosted window look. But I didn't really like how the strawberry looked behind it either, so I did end up taking some just copy paper and gluing it behind there. But not before I took my yellow marker and gave the windows a little bit of a yellow glow to make it look like lights were on in the house. Although it was daytime, so it probably wouldn't have been that glowy. but whatever. I did what I did. Now here, I kept looking at this house and it was like kind of weirding me out because the green top reminded me of some like hair or something. And then the windows looked like eyes. And then the door looked like a nose/mouth area. I don't know. I just kept looking at it and thinking, man, that's ugly. Like, I hope it looks less weird after I finish. And ultimately, I think it did. For my grass, I have used my simple grassy hillside dye. And I just cut that out of white. I can't speak today. That's normal, I guess. Anyway, I just cut it out of white cardstock and I am ink blending it with mowed lawn, leaving it darker at the bottom than the top. And then I went in with some Lucky Clover. I watered it down and then I just splattered it on my grass. This was just to give it some more texture because I knew that it was going to need something after I put my whole card together. Like, I could have inked it more with grassy stencils or whatever, but since my characters are so small, I didn't want it to look like they were standing in really tall grass. So I have picked images from Happy Village, A Bug Deal, and what was the first one that I showed? Sweet Friends. Yeah. If I had stopped talking long enough, I would have been able to tell you that sooner. But anyway, from the Sweet Friends stamp set, I have stamped 3 strawberries together in a cluster to make them look like balloons. I even added the little like balloon ends to the bottom. And so I'm just coloring those in like strawberries, but trying to keep them fairly simple so it still looks like a balloon. And you'll see I have a cake stamped up there. I did not like it like size-wise, so I didn't end up using that one at all. And if I had more time, maybe I could have partially stamped it and then drew in a smaller piece at the top so it would just look like a very large cake, but I didn't. So there's no birthday cake in this party. Maybe it's in the house. Yes, while I was rambling, I did have the little packages from the Happy Village stamp set, and that was inked with jellyfish ink, and then I used my fine liner to go over it. Okay, real quick here, I've got the Tiny Spring Friends, and I stamped the flowers. And I'm just going to color those very simply with yellow and then a yellow-green. Anyway, the little party hats came from A Bug Deal. I just felt like those worked best size-wise for the heads of the tiny little people. Now here I have the doorknob and the little lock from, I think it was still the same die set as the door and the windows. And I decided I was going to make the frame of the windows and the door yellow. This is I want to say this was the Y15. It was a little bit darker than some of the other yellows I had used throughout the card. I took a darker yellow just to add some shading to the bottom of the doorknob, just to make it look like it stood out a bit. Now here I decided to go in with, I want to say that was YG09, and make some lines on my leaves just because they looked a little bit flat. I didn't love this. I did go back in later and kind of soften them out with one of my, what was that, YG5, I think. Should have showed that marker, and I forgot. I got a little ahead of myself. And then I used some R35 to kind of add a little bit more depth to the bottom of my house, and then add some shading right underneath the leaves. And then I think I even blended that one out, and I think I used a R30. I think it was R30. Now here I'm just gluing pieces down. I mostly left out the parts where I put glue on everything. You know, since that's not exactly exciting or fun. If only I could skip past that part myself. Now here's where I bust out my specialist equipment. It's a piece of paper for a ruler, and all I'm doing is making some little strings for my balloons. I do wish I had moved the little girl over a little bit more so the balloons weren't so far out, but it is what it is. And now I'm just adhering everything else down, attaching my flowers here and there because I felt like the grass needed a little bit more color. And then once that was done, I knew I needed a sentiment, and I had already pretty much figured out what kind of sentiment I was going to use. And obviously this is a birthday card, so this will be for the Lawn Fawn Challenge, the current one, which is all things birthday. Oh, here I'm just adding a little bit of shading underneath all of my people. And you see I did add some white highlights to my balloons. And now part of my sentiment, I'm using Smitty's ABCs. And that's just for the word berry. And that's because there is the word berry in the stamp set that I used for the rest of the sentiment, but it's small and I wanted it bigger. So that's why I'm doing this. Also, there's only one capital R in there. So in order to save its place, I decided to use the P. So I put BEPRY for spacing purposes. So once I get that stamped, I'm just moving my R over. Once I have it in the good place, I'm just gonna take the rest away, ink that one up, and then stamp it down. I will say, if you do not have any alphabet stamp sets, you should probably invest in some. They actually come in handy. Now here I have my fish tank ink and the rest of my sentiment, which is have a and then happy birthday. And that is from the Berry Special stamp set. That is from the new release from Fawn, which I can't wait to use some more because that's such a cute set. Now here I have the pop-up platform add-on die set because last minute I decided I needed some clouds, like cutout clouds and a sun in the sky to help kind of take up some of the space that I felt was looking a little empty. So for my clouds, I'm just inking up with the residual ink that's on my blue blending brush. And I did the same for the sun with the yellow. Now, to get this to kind of fall behind the strawberry house, I decided I would kind of place it on my strawberry and then take the die, tape it up to the die, and then run it through my die cutting machine. So now it is cut out like the leaf. This worked out really well. I was pretty happy with it. I did add a little bit of darkness to the center of the sun with the marker. And now I have a couple more clouds I need to cut out right at the edge of the leaves. So did the same thing, placed them, laid the die over the top, had tape on it so it stuck where it needed to the die, ran it through my die cutting machine, and then glued it to the background. Now I'm just finishing up by adding my extra clouds here and there on my background panel. I really do like this die set, like even just for the little sun and clouds, I think it's awesome. Now I did have to cut off one of the clouds because I did hang it off the edge a little bit to make a seamless looking scene. Now here I kind of regret this decision, but I took my green pen that's, I think it was light green from Cricut, and I made a little berry top, like a strawberry top on the bee. Not sure I love that decision, but it's one I made, so it was too late. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this card. I will be back with another video soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye!